Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. Lauren and I are here together. I'm Hannah, and she's Lauren.
Hi, friends.
And we are coming off of, we're recording this on a Monday morning. We always have our kind of like uh, team admin call where we, kind of like game plan for the week and what needs to get done and what's happening and this and that. And it was really interesting because in our conversation this morning, I was like noticing like this frustration come up and just feeling frustrated around a few different things, especially around other people trying to impose like a structure on me and my business and my expression that literally, again, as a manifesting generator type, that frustration element is my like red flag. Like, hey, something is off here because I'm feeling super frustrated. And so we thought that's actually the place to dive in for this week because it also very tangibly ties to prosperity and our ability to speak to the right people and the right people being the people who can hear and receive and um, grow and change and transform from what we have to share. So that's where we're going to dive in a little bit today. But Lauren, you have the words in front of you. What is
Yeah.
our topic for today?
Yes. Why structure feels restrictive and how to fix it.
hmm Yeah, we did touch on this a little bit last time as well. I think I was talking about the masks that in the past, especially when I was at the firm that I was at before I left and launched X Squared. It felt like I was. You said exactly the visual that was in my head, is like the Phantom of the Opera. Like what side of my face am I putting a mask over in order to feel acceptable? And what we've noticed and come to realize, especially over the last, I would say since 2023, because that's when I literally came out of, the closet, so to speak, of, saying that I use human design in my process and that my clients who have the best transformative results use that in conjunction with like everything that we're doing on the financial side. So the literal money structure, the literal business structure paired with the human design is what has yielded the best results, including, the money story meditations, all the emotional side and the spiritual side needing to be in cahoots, I guess, with the logical side, with the implementation. Um, and the structure piece of that, I mean, over the last, I'll just speak from my own experience really clearly for a little bit here. When I came out with that back in 2023, so I think it was like May or June of 2023 that I really like shared like, okay, this is how I'm really working with people. This is what's really working, what I really enjoy, what really resonates with me. Also, because when I learned how to be me and work as me, it opened everything up.
Mhm.
Uh, and for the next almost 2 full years, definitely a year and a half, if not 2 years. I mean, just like client acquisition was so easy. People heard what I was saying and was like, "You are the person I've been searching for." Um, I had people who were like waiting, who had been like kind of waiting in the wings to work with me until I literally said like those were the magic words, that I am incorporating human design into my practice and gene keys into my practice and these money story meditations into my practice. That we're going to look at you as a whole person, not as, a number and a spreadsheet. And then over the last like 8 months or so, um, I started getting feedback from people that like the soft side, the human design side, the gene key side was like off putting to them, and that, oh yeah, like I want to hear about like the logical side more. Or I want to understand, how can you save me more money, or you know, how can you promise X number of percentage return? Um, and I started to try to jump through those hoops, right? I had these were people that were in groups, that, supposedly were also connected to lots of other people that could be a good conduit for new clients and potential, right, networks to share with and to present for. So it was like, okay, well, I guess I need to, say it differently or present things differently. And what started happening was the mask started going back on. Right? I started doing it again. Like, oh, well, I guess I have to cover up this part, or I guess I have to cover up this part in order for you to hear what I'm trying to say, to get that, strategy call or exploration call in the books, and then to be able to share. And what ensued from that was crickets. Absolutely nothing. Because those people, this is what, after zooming out and having also really supportive conversations with Lauren here, to be completely transparent. I'm like beating my head against a wall, feeling so frustrated. And you're like, hold on, why are you listening to those people again? I'm like, holy shit. I, I don't know. I don't know why. Because those people didn't ever even ask to have a strategy call with me. The people that had that to say didn't want to work with me.
Uh-huh.
And so why on earth was I contorting myself to try and attract someone who wasn't naturally magnetized to me in the first place?
Mhm.
And like saying that out loud, it's like, what, did I have to learn that lesson again? Did I need? I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess I did.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only human being on earth, right? We all have to be smacked across the face with our lessons a couple of times before we're like, oh, okay, I see it. That one hurt a little bit, so I'm gonna take a step back and try to do this over.
Yeah.
Mm.
And what I think, and what's relevant to this conversation today, um, what I have been hearing and noticing and integrating is that desire that people do have, that need to understand um, more of the, like, those technical nuances, right? Like, what is the actual strategy? What are some of those things? And to be like fully open to, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you really enjoy it, I also have another podcast called Investment Friday, where we talk about literally what's going on in the economy, what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with the stock market and the bond markets, and in May of 2026, the Strait of Hormuz, and like geopolitical issues, and how it's affecting our money and the decisions that we are literally walking our clients through. And I do that podcast with my chief investment officer, Brad Haynes, who is one of the most emotionally intelligent financial people I have ever met. And that's why I am happy at Juncture. That's why X Squared is attached to Juncture Wealth Strategies, right? Is because I get to work with other financial professionals who are also extremely emotionally intelligent. Because I just don't fit in other places. When we talk about structure, I don't fit in those other structures where it's like the quote unquote soft skills are diminished. So that, again, to just to point out that there is, like, I do express those parts of myself. But there have been several instances over the last, 6 to 8 months, where people have wanted to then like compartmentalize me again, like put the human design stuff compartmentalized over here, and then put the, technical financial stuff compartmentalized over here, and never the twain shall meet. Right? I'm like, I we can't do that. I can't do that. It doesn't serve. It doesn't serve our clients. It doesn't serve the whole person. And so, yeah, that frustration coming up so um, strongly today was like, it's pointing to something we need to talk about and illuminate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to our discussions about our 12th house and 8th house for you, for a listener. We also, Hannah does a great job of educating me on the more astrological side of things, and then how that layers into human design and gene keys. And you kind of put all of this spiritual information on top of one another and kind of root through kind of what that means. And who we are specifically, you're here to eliminate, you and I are both here to illuminate and talk about really challenging things, and to be voices of boldness and sometimes not giving a fuck. Not to say that we don't care what other people think, but it's more about not backing away from the challenging conversations. And the challenging conversation here is that it's not just money. It's not just about the logical flow and manipulation of money. Yes, that's part of it, right? As somebody who has a ton of logical energy in human design, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the traditional understanding of what logic is, but someone who can be very like methodical in things, but that method is rooted in spirituality. And by spirituality, I mean a connection to something very much larger than ourselves, i.e., the universe. And so when we're talking about money or we're talking about building a business, it's not just about do X, Y, and Z to get A, B, C. It's does X, Y, and Z really work for you because of who you are? Because of how you're designed to live in this life and use the form that you were given in a very specific way with a very specific contribution. Doing X, Y, and Z actually may not be very fucking logical for you, right? And ABC may not necessarily be what is meant for you. And so being able to illuminate those kinds of topics and saying, hey, we can't look at these compartmentalized. At some point, we have to be able to integrate them, because it is an entire human being building a business, coming into this accumulation of wealth in a way that they've probably never done it before. So rather than follow the logical steps of what has brought success to everyone else, we're taking a step back and saying, hey, yeah, those are great steps. Are they the right steps for you? And that, we're not going to sit here and sit back and be like, well, okay, we understand that human design is a little soft. It's actually not very soft at all. To be quite clear, it'll fucking smack you across the face sometimes. And you're just like, oh, well, I didn't really want that to be a part of my energy, but I also see how that is a part of my energy.
Yeah.
That's also a limitation for me, right? I think that's where a lot of people get so scared of the term limitation.
Hmm.
Sometimes your limitation is the saving grace, in that it helps you to say, oh, my energy actually isn't designed for that. Or, oh, that's why that thing is so hard for me. I can put that weight down, and I can appreciate my limitation for what it is. That's not the contribution I'm here to make. And I can relieve myself of the pressure to be that thing or do that thing or say that thing, because I feel it's the only logical step for getting me to where I think I. So yeah, we're here to say, okay, we can look at both sides. We can look at the logical side. We can look at the step-by-step methodical side, but we're also going to look at the nuance of things. And that nuance of things is who each individual human is here to be. And to understand that those nuances are imperative to account for, because it's the only way to truly support that human in a way that makes the most sense, and to help them through the weight that they carry because they're trying to be so unbelievably logical about the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not to your point, it's not one or the other. And it's so interesting how, um, I have had recently so many, I would say so many people coming in different areas, like asking about one or the other. Well, do you just do this? Do you just do that? Or um I would say again, but it's not the people who want to buy. It's not the people who actually um resonate with the whole message and are like ready to go. So it's such a again a good reminder and a good um lesson of, again, something that I have taught. And you can go on literally on the Expansive CEO website and get the, niching course, that mini course that I created that says like your niche is the person that's ready, that can receive everything that you want to pour out. That is just, like that person who, when you are in your brightest energy, like, here's everything I've got, and I can't wait to share it with you. And that's your niche, is the person that can receive that and who wants and needs that, not the person who's like, okay, I have my cup is this big, and I just want to take this little bit. And as you pour out, you have to like, okay, I gotta like try to get it into that little tiny cup. That's exhausting.
Mhm.
And it's not in anybody's highest service. And what was what was coming up also as you were talking is like this reminder that people are listening all the time. And I had a just a connection call with someone, a community leader who's super sweet. Her name is Jennifer Hill. She meets all kinds of people all the time, and she met someone, and this woman is more of a um, like marketing person and copywriter, and she incorporates human design into her process. And so she's like, "Oh, well, Jennifer said you need to meet Hannah. You guys just need to connect and see how um just know each other." So I met her, so sweet. We had such a lovely conversation. Then we connected on Voxer after,
Mhm.
and she asked a couple of questions. And she said something to me. She left a voice note, and said that she wanted to let me know how impactful it had been that I just, when I shared what I do and how I do it, I just said, I incorporate human design and gene keys into my process, and here's how I do it, and here's how it helps, and here's how it works. And that it was just like matter of fact, like this is how I do it. And I didn't catch this in our conversation initially, but she's been feeling really shaky, feeling like people are going to think it's weird. And she shared that a coach that she is working with, a business coach, had told her like, you have to stop just talking to your friends about it. You need to you need to tell more people. Right? Like your friends are safe. They understand, what you love, but you're just sharing it, the human design plus the copywriting and the email marketing and all of those things with your friends. And it has to go bigger. And so she shared with me how impactful it was that I was just being me and saying what I do and how I do it and how I help people, um, and that was hugely impactful. And I had to like stop and receive that and take that in, because that's also a part of my design. Right? I have that channel of inspiration, the 1-8, which is from the G center, or yeah, the G center, the diamond in the middle up to the throat, but it's fully unconscious for me. It's all red. Um, But that is when I'm in my brightest energy, is when I'm just being me, just leading from my authentic expression of like, here's me with no, filter necessarily. And it helps it helps people in ways that I couldn't make up, right? I didn't have any um preconceived notion that that would be a life-changing comment for her.
She called you out to be a role model, right? And that came shining through. I would also love to see her design. If she's a four line, then that business coach, no, honey, share it with your friends first and then see where it goes. But hey, I digress on that respect.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's super interesting. She sent me her chart and I pulled out a couple of things that were really interesting and just shared with her. But it was, again, just that reminder for me that it's not about trying to fit the mold for everyone. And that's none of us are here for that. And as I allowed myself to be influenced to water down the message, which might be surprising to anyone listening to this podcast because we talk about human design all the time, right? But it's that it was then, in this group, I was, putting on this mask or being influenced to say things this way. And in this other group, I was, maybe expressing it a little bit differently rather than keeping my message truly fully me, no matter where I go. Because having a defined G center in all the ways that it's defined, that is how one of the ways that I bring healthy energy into a group is when I bring like, I know who I am. Here is me, and I'm going to stay me. I'm going to stay all of me no matter where I go. That's the healthy expression of a G center that gives that imprint for someone like Lauren. You have a one gate, right? Like an undefined G. And a lot of people do have an undefined G center and that looking for direction outside of yourself, looking for love outside of yourself. Um, and what that needs is for people like me who have that definition to give that healthy expression, to let the people around me feel that imprint of, oh, that's what it feels like. Because that's what helps you move through the conditioning versus me trying to push that on you or me allowing myself to be pulled around by other people. It's such an important aspect of my design. And it's, again, that lesson of like, yeah, like I really can't let myself be yanked around
yeah,
by other people.
yeah. And it also brings up the thing about your energy is that you can actually be way more fucked up in your definition than you can in your openness. You can be conditioned in your own definition. And that's why it's really healthy to understand both sides and to understand how both sides are going to influence the other. How your not self is going to use your definition against you sometimes. And it's just your mind trying to gain control because it believes that it needs to be in control in order to make sense of what is open. And so thinking of it as a persona uses you against yourself. And that's what all of us, no matter what's defined in your chart, is that we have an obligation to understand that energy so that we can be the healthiest expression of that definition. And recognizing that healthy definition or healthy expression isn't always kind of back to what we talked in our episode, always of giving of yourself. Sometimes it is a selfish response, and I'll use response whether if you're a generator or not. Everybody's always responding to life, right? One way or the other, right? And by selfish, I simply mean that it's not that you're giving the big double finger, double bird to everybody out there. It's not selfish in that respect. It's more of that it is rooted in self-love, self-acceptance, and at times self-absorption. But again, that's not a negative. The self-absorption is I'm doing what's best for me, regardless of what structure says I should do, regardless of what logic says I should do. And that becomes the tension that we all deal with, is that our mind says one thing because it's deeply conditioned, where our body is saying another because it knows. And that's what understanding your own energy mechanics becomes, is your awareness becomes, where's my mind trying to override what is truly me? And am I courageous enough to honor that?
The term that came up as you were talking, especially like when your body is using, your openness against your definition, that to me was like, oh, that's the definition of self-sabotage.
Yes. And you have no idea that you're doing it until you learn. And I'll say this, you and I are your example that you're talking about right now. You didn't know it in the moment. You know, you had to go through the entire experience to see it. And you also had the opportunity to have people who love and adore you and want to see you shine through, be like, you sure? You sure? That's what you want to do? You want to think that a different way? You want to look at it a different way? No, you know me. I like to joke around with you. But of recognizing, and that's why I love when people understand my energy, as they can reflect back to me and be like, you sure you want to give that much? Is that really in your best interest? And kind of slapping me across the face with it, and recognizing that, hey, we all get caught up in it. And those of us who, like you and I, quote unquote experts, right? We've studied it enough to be an authority in that respect. Hey, we still get caught up in it. And we always will. There is no part of us that won't. As you and I are roughly in the same kind of 7-year cycle. Yeah, you might be what, 4, 5, 6 months ahead of me, right? But relatively speaking, we're in that same 7-year cycle. And 3.5 years from now, we'll be like, oh, it's even different than it was. And then we get through another 7 years, it's going to be even different than it was the first 7 years. And to recognize that the battle is constant, and there are days where it's challenging. But that's where the structure of knowing yourself is how you fix it, is how you fix dealing with the external structure that is being forced upon you, mostly internally more than anybody else.
Hmm.
Right? Even though it may be coming from the outside, we allow ourselves to be held to a structure that doesn't work for us.
Right.
But when that's how you fix it, is understanding the structure of you and being, again, courageous enough to tell the external structure to get lost.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, for me, that was leaving my previous firm. And again, I've told the story plenty of times, so I won't like rehash the whole thing, but that was the thing. It was like, here's this structure that you have to use in order to be successful. And we don't see you using that structure the same way we're using it. So you're not going to be successful. And me in that moment, even before I had discovered human design, knowing that that was complete bullshit, that was not correct. Right. I'm like, I am different from you. I build differently than you build. And recognizing that I was not going to, I mean, they were right also. I was not going to be successful there. That was true because I wasn't allowed to have the space to be me enough to see what success actually looked like for me. And it took it took a lot of how do I want to say that? It took a lot of healing. It took time. It took healing. And even still, like this, it's like it's almost like the first 5 years because X squared is 5.5 years old now. In those first 5 years, right? Like it was especially the first couple, so much healing, so much finding myself, right? That then in 2023, again, so after, a good 2.5 years of really focused internal and external work, like you said, like building structures, um, that, in 2023, then I started to notice where I was not, right? Like where my external structures weren't matching my internal structures, right? Okay. Now we need to rework this.
Yep.
And then people asking, "Oh," well, and I get this question all the time. How do you when you say you do human design and you incorporate that into your process, what does that mean? How do you do that? And it's like, "Oh, you know what? I do have a structure for that. I did create a structure around how I incorporate that and what it looks like." And again, that was like the way that I want to describe that is like it came from the inside out. It didn't come from the outside in. I think I shared or I might have shared this on Substack. I don't know if I shared it on the podcast. I didn't have no, I did last week, I think. I didn't have anyone model that for me. There was no one else. I didn't have a business coach that was like, "Here's how you do that." Didn't exist. That structure came from the inside out. It wasn't someone else's that I put on
Mhm.
to try. Um, and that is, I want to say more than anything, that's what I think is a missing piece in business coaching, in financial coaching, in financial planning, in creating, right? Like when we're creating these structures, like so much of it, and I still get clients too who are very who want me to tell them how to do everything.
Mhm.
Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right? And it's like that's not in some ways that's my job on the financial side, right?
Yeah.
Like yes, I have this expertise, I have this knowledge. I've worked in this area for literally 2 decades. I have a lot of knowledge. But even within that, there's so much nuance. There's so many options. There's so many different ways to structure your money, to structure your income, to structure how you take money out of the portfolio, what you invest in. There are so many options that it still does need to be a really careful and intentional blend of what comes from the inside out. And that is again, when we're talking about like the integration of human design and gene keys with like what's the right kind of investment for you in your life, there's so much more overlap there than the traditional world wants to give these two things credit for. Because again, if we're going from the inside out, if we're creating structure from the inside out, then it's actually something that fits you, that's correct for you. And you're not gonna I don't want to say this. You're not you're there's gonna be so much less regret overall than when you just blindly take on someone else's recommendations all the time.
It actually reminded me of something within the world of human design is that when you make a decision through your actual authority, you tend never to consider it again because it was correct. You're just moving on. But if you make a decision from your mind, you will play that over and over and over and over. it will plague you for the rest of your life. And in that moment of, yeah, it's actually minimizing resistance. It's minimizing regret. It's minimizing the rumination of, why did I do that? Because I mean, if I think back in my own life, particularly when it comes to business, it's really funny. That's what resonated so much with, on the last episode, Hannah talked about how I have 3 planets in my 6th house. What is that called again?
Stellium.
Stellium. But I also have a stellium in the 12th house, and it's actually those 2 houses are, in directly
Directly opposite from
directly
yeah.
opposite of one another, and so is the strategy. And it's my 6th house is I cannot adopt somebody else's structure. That my into it, what came up for me to talk about, like, mine truly is everybody's, but I'm just saying from my stelliums, right? Truly, I cannot build. It has to be built from the inside out, and that my intuition is the root of it. But then I need time to sit with what that intuition really means. But taking in human design, if I'm not still enough to listen to that intuition, one, I'll never hear it. So then I won't have the opportunity to integrate it. But if I'm constantly, my conditioning is my open head, open G, open ego, and solar plexus. If I'm constantly out there trying to answer questions about what to be productive about in order to force a direction to prove that I can, and avoid all of the messy situations in life, I'm going to be so consumed with inputting someone else's structure, because that structure is going to be able to answer the questions, provide a direction. I'm going to prove that I'm skillful enough and I can stay busy enough to implement them, and ignore all the situations that would get in the way of building that structure. Like, that's where all of these nuances come together. And that's what we support you in understanding, is that, like, y- how you can interrupt the building of your own internal structure from the inside out. And taking all of these layers of awareness and layers of being in this human form that is very specific and personal to you, and how that can interrupt your ability, one, to make the most effective decisions, and two, to build a business and wealth strategy. And wealth can mean a number of different things that align to you. We're talking about the pearl spheres, right? The way that we interact with somebody who's a 1 line versus a 2 line, well, those are going to be very different strategies, or can be. And for someone like me who's a 2 line, to sit here and, be receiving, but I'm off here trying to, like, force every, wealth strategy I can possibly think of. Well, I'm going to sit here and be chaotic, and then I'm going over, well, I shouldn't have put my money there, because then that was a shit show, or, I was trying to force it there and it didn't come back the way that I wanted to, or, things like that, of just recognizing these things matter, these nuances matter. And while we may have to work a little bit to get them fully correct, they offer a starting point so that we can eliminate a lot of shit that's not going to work from the get go, and lead to a level of regret because I should have done, or I shouldn't have done
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that's coming up, an example, I was thinking of, you can share or not if you want. But when we first met, you were in a mastermind that, like, every once in a while you would, like, tell me some of the things that you were learning, and I was like, "Uh, what?" Like, why are you doing that? And learning more and more. Like, one thing I remember specifically was, the leader didn't have kids. He's a man, no kids. And you were saying, I was like, how is that gonna work for you as a mom with 2 kids, responsible for a lot of the household things and building a business, even to that level of, like, we again, thinking about that person's structure that works for them or doesn't really work for them. Like, questionable, right?
It doesn't.
Not being judgy. But
I am, not gonna lie. I'm
yeah.
being fair.
But just see, like sometimes outside of us, and that's the funny thing, I think, is that like you could see it when I was trying to put someone else's structure on that was not correct. I could see it when you were trying to put someone else's structure on that was not correct. But sometimes we are in it and just like not noticing that we're responding from a place of trying to prove or trying to be accepted or trying to um what's the like those are the big ones, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I as somebody who has the openness that I do, I'm very easily manipulated because I don't trust myself. All of my authority comes from a very silent or very, very light intuition. And, again, we joked last week that the universe.
Right. More so. Well, and to be quite honest, it's, the other thing that was coming up for me was, when I look at my favorite clients, favorite meaning that whenever they're on my calendar, I'm like, "Oh, yes." Like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to them." Right? Or um that have had the most impactful results that, just feel so feel so much better about their money situation, about their business, about their ability to process their, like, all of the things that we work on. My again, favorite clients that I love to work with and see on a regular basis, they all want that whole picture. Every single one of them. It's not an either or. It's not a, "Hey, can you put that," like, we don't wanna talk about that right now. Sometimes human design isn't the focus. Sometimes it's, tax time and we gotta talk about tax stuff, right? Um, or, we're talking about offers and we're talking about pricing and we're talking about expenses and we're talking about, how to have the right kind of support. But it's always that it's a holistic look. And going back to that, the mini niching course that I have out there, that's why I created that, because it was like, this is where I know I am the most lit up, is when I can pour out all of that. It doesn't always have to be all of it at one time, but that's someone else wants to receive that. And I can share from all of that experience, all of that wisdom, all of that deep study in all of those different areas, right? That they're not, someone else isn't trying to impose their structure of what they think I am onto me. I get to be all of me. And that, I mean, just that reminder of, like, again, going back to the mastermind, like, lovely people. There's nothing wrong with them as people. There's no judgment at all for what they want and they desire. But to notice that they weren't asking me for my help because they didn't want all of my help. And so rather than, again, the structure of, "Hey, I think you should talk about your work this way because then it would be more appealing to me," when they weren't asking me for my help anyway. Where's how what, why don't we set that down and say, "Hey, I hear that you actually are looking for something very different than what I offer. I have if you ask me for a recommendation, I can give you 10 other advisors who are wonderful, who are gonna meet you where you want to be met, but that's not me, and I don't need to contort myself to the structure that you feel is right." It is. It is really hard to say. I think, again, there's so much conditioning that goes with that too. Yeah. Yeah. And from like a structure standpoint, like that is how you build a business that actually works for you. Yeah. I mean, again, like eh, from what is like from the logical side, I make more money more easily and with more ease and joy, literal joy, when I follow what's correct for me. When I don't try to force myself to be the right option for people who clearly don't want all of what I offer. That feels crappy. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel joyful. I feel burdened, literally. I feel when I'm like, ugh, like if it's someone that really doesn't align, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to kind of like gear myself up for this one, right? And like, what are we going to talk about? Or trying to write a plan for someone who it's like, I get like that can feel super burdensome. And and it's not. We talk about this all the time too. It's not just about ease and flow. That's not what we're going for. That it's always going to be easy and flowy and perfect, and you're not going to hit any rapids. That's not the point. But when I know that, hey, this path aligns with my energy, and for the most part, this is going to lead to such better conversations. Then the challenges are, you know what? Sometimes clients are going to go through a really hard time. And that's part of my work, is to be able to be that safe space when those emotions do come up, and hold that space, because when the emotions come up, it's for a reason, and it's because they're actually ready to be seen in a new way, right? So that is part of my work as well, right? Like we're not going to move off of this. I'm not going to distract you from this. We're actually going to sit with this and see what it has to reveal about the situation. That can be challenging, but it doesn't mean um it's not challenging in a bad way. Like that's the only thing that's coming up, right? Like it's not. It'll take a little bit more out of me than an easy client meeting where everything is just, yay, happy, rah, rah, but it's not a bad thing. Ooh, and with good form. Like, what's the level of resistance that you can still handle with good form? Well, and then there are also days where the same weight that you carried 2 days ago suddenly feels like, "Yeah, damn, well, that is really heavy today." Yeah, that also happens. The gym is such a good it's such a good corollary. I thought about that earlier too, actually, at the beginning of our conversation. I didn't say it, so I'm gonna say it now, because the structure as well of how you best load your resistance points to grow also, like, we are all our bodies are different. Not only is our, unique imprint of our human design its own thing, our bodies are different. Our mechanical hinge points, our legs are different. Like some people have really long femurs and some people have really short torsos. So, literally, the type of squat that is good for your body might be different from someone else. Literally, the way that you deadlift is going to be different from someone with a very different body than you. And so, again, taking someone else's structure, hey, Lauren, you're what, like 5 or 7 inches taller than me? You're quite taller than me. It's going to be different. Right. And so, exactly, your hinge points are different than mine. And so, any good trainer, literally a good like physical trainer, fitness trainer is going to look at your body and say, "This is how you're built. I want you to try it this way to get the maximum results for what you're looking to do." Not, "Here's this guy who's 6'4". You do what he's doing. Like, no, that's bad advice. The deadlift is going to look a lot different. It doesn't have to move as far off the ground. It seems so obvious. So, dear listener, that's what we've got for today. The structure that is right for you is going to come from the inside out. It really, truly is. And so, whether it's from the financial lens or the energetic lens or the emotional lens that we look through, because we look through all three of those, we are consistently um, supporting you to look at yourself in that same way and to make those decisions that align with you and to try things and to experiment. And again, maybe we'll talk about this more next week, like the literal, logical, hey, yes, here's structure that you can try on. We won't get. We're gonna tee this up for next week, like talking about the actual structure of your business and of your business bank accounts. I think is a really good example of this, because it's going to be different depending on your business, depending on your ability to the amount of support that you have, your ability to how income comes into your business. There are so many factors. So I want to tee that up as well, that when we talk about structure, we're talking about you emotionally as a human, and we are talking literal how you set things up in your business. So we'll leave that there. We need to make a note so we don't forget. But that's what we've got for today. And again, Lauren and I are super active over on Substack. Come join us there. It's super fun. The conversations are so amazing. I love it. Uh, Expansive CEO on Substack. It's Hannah Chapman, Expansive CEO, and Lauren Ammon, Expansive CEO. You'll find everything. Come subscribe, come hang out. We'd love to see you there. Anything else for today, Lauren? All right. Well, we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.